I started noticing with my clients that no matter how much attention and love that they got from their loved ones, they were insatiable. They just needed more. They needed more. They never felt loved. And it came to me that when we have all these holes, that we're like a colander, and that whatever love that we are given, it just goes right through us. My name is Deb Blum, and this is the Whole Soul Way. It's my signature program that I've been teaching for the past 4 years, and I decided to offer the foundation lessons, exercises, and tools for free on YouTube and all of the major podcast channels. Because I truly believe that the world needs more of us, healed, whole, authentic, and awake. And you know what? I don't want to be a barrier to anyone getting the help that they need. And in fact, I really want to be part of the change. Each lesson builds on the last. So if this is your first time here, make sure that you start at the beginning. This is your invitation. Show up, do the work, and join the movement of souls who are committed to creating a better world, one inner transformation at a time. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to step 2, where we're talking about your masks and your holes. Basically, there's a problem, which is all the things that have happened to you all the way up until now, mainly in your childhood, that caused you to get these holes inside of you. And I'll explain that a little bit more in this lesson. And the solution is to come into greater wholeness, which means to go out and find all the ways that we've cut off from ourselves, all the parts of us that we've had to abandon and disown, all of the ways that we have lost connection with our inner child, and all the ways that we're also guarding and defending ourselves. And all of those things keep us from having the kind of relationship that we deeply long for inside of ourselves, which then prevents us from being able to have the kinds of relationships that we want in the outside world. So what we're going to talk about is how those holes get formed and how we can fill those holes, which the whole program is really about how we can fill those holes, how we can reclaim all those parts into wholeness. But we're also going to talk about how each one of those holes represents some sort of a wound or something that's been put either into our unconscious mind or something that in some way we're trying to avoid. We don't really want to feel that. We don't want to remember that. Those are painful things. We want to avoid pain, and we want to move toward love and connection and pleasure. We want to avoid discomfort, move toward pleasure, right? That's our natural impulse. The problem is usually what we're doing is trying to seek all of that outside of us. I'm trying to show you that really the work is in bravely going toward those places that we don't want to face, and then meeting them, getting to know them, coming into a relationship with them. But who gets in the way? Well, our inner protector. So we have learned how to put on masks. Like, look at me, I'm happy, and inside, not so much. Or, of course, I'll do that for you, people pleaser mask, right? We have all these ways we have masks. And then we also have armor, which is ways that we close our heart, where we protect our heart. Right. And we, no, I'm not going there. Right. Because we don't feel safe enough inside. So what's the path to safety? The path to safety is wholeness and self-connection. And so if we're seeking outside of us for safety, we're going to be waiting for a long time. Of course, that assumes that we have a baseline amount of safety. We're not physically unsafe. We have our basic needs met, and that we are not being abused. Then from there, we have to cultivate that inner safety inside. We can't depend on other people to provide us that safety. I mean, other people are barely hanging on too. How can we really expect them to provide for us what we want? We do that from inside. What we learned before was all about the ego and how she shows up. But now we're going to learn more nuanced ways of how she shows up. But also we're going to be able to understand how we can come more into wholeness, come into a greater relationship with ourselves, and really get clear on the life we've been living, the reason why we're so uncomfortable, all of the struggles we have, the reason why we use this guarding, all of these masks, and then how we can find another way. Welcome to step 2, where we're talking about our masks and our childhood hurts and holes. Let's just do a quick recap on befriending our ego, what we did in step 1. So we started out by understanding the difference between ego consciousness, like what does the world want from me, and soul consciousness, what does my soul want from me? And we watch the ways where our ego defense mechanism shows up, what I call the trickster ego. I love calling it the trickster ego because it helps us to remember that she's very, very sneaky, and she's very creative, and she will make you believe that it's not a defense mechanism, but it's really, really, really necessary right now. Like this is real life. And we can get very tricked by her. But we also call her the inner protector. I see these as interchangeable: trickster ego, ego trickster, ego defense mechanism, ego consciousness, whatever it is, and inner protector. And we watch for the ways that she shows up. This is the beginning of starting to see, look at this, like she shows up in my life and she does these things. And wow, I didn't even really know that these things were happening. We gained a better understanding of the ego and the soul, including naming our inner child and our inner protector, right? So starting to be able to see more of the difference between these. And the reason why I like to call the ego the inner protector is because I want us to remember that she's another part of us. She's actually an inner child part of us. So she's not to be discounted, marginalized, cut off from, banished, hated, or killed. You'll hear people talk about the death of the ego. Now, believe me, you're going to have things that come up that people will say, like an ego death. And it's these many ways that our ego is no longer in charge as much. I'm fine with the idea metaphorically of death. But the reality is the ego is part of us and has been very, very useful. And we want her to know that we love her and appreciate her. And so that's one of the things we also did, was we looked at the ways that she's been trying to protect us and expressed our gratitude for her hard work and thanked her, because we know that she's been our biggest and greatest ally, and that we don't want to make her feel like we don't appreciate her. And because we know that if we don't do this work, what will happen is she will get more angry. She will not let us keep doing the work. So we worked also with that meditation to calm down our ego and to say, we're not cutting off from you. We're not telling you we don't love you or care about you anymore. We're just saying that we want to be in this together. We don't want you to be the one in charge. We want to step in and we want to be the driver of our own car. We want to be the ones that are in charge. And then you're just going to be there partnering with us. Okay. And I've said this before, but I'll say this again. And it's like the idea that our inner child and our inner protector, they get a say, but they don't get their way. Just like I told my kids. So they get a say, but they don't necessarily get their way because I'm the adult and I have to consider everybody's voices and everybody's perspectives, not just one voice, not just the protector, not just the inner child, or not just one of those many parts. All right. So let's talk about where we're going today. So today we're going to be talking about shadows, holes, armor, and masks. Those will be our primary definitions today. And we're going to understand the problem, which is these holes that we have in us, childhood wounding, etc. And then the solution, which is wholeness, coming in to reclaim more and more parts of ourselves so that we can feel more whole. And we will also spend a little time trying to identify some of your own personal masks and armors. Let's talk about the shadow. You know, I feel badly for the shadow. The shadow has such a bad rap. But let's just talk about what the shadow actually is. In a nutshell, it's the stuff that's in the unconscious mind. It's the parts of you that are hidden from your awareness, not because they're bad, but because at some point you believe that showing them was going to cost you love, acceptance, approval. And here's what I need you to know. The shadow isn't necessarily even your negative or bad or scary things. We think it's either dark or in the darkness, and so therefore it's bad. And yeah, it can hold things that are uncomfortable, but it also holds our buried dreams, our unexpressed talents, your authentic voice. It really holds the wholeness of who we are. So think about this for a minute. As humans, we are the most dependent creatures on earth. We need our caregivers for years. Our very survival depends on their love, acceptance, and care. And because of that, we become exquisitely attuned to what wins approval and what loses it. Right? So without ever saying a word, you learned what was safe to express and what wasn't, what was welcomed and what got you shut down, what kept you connected and what threatened to leave you alone. So you made an unconscious survival-based choice And you took all these parts of yourself that you perceived would lead to disapproval, rejection, abandonment, and you buried them. You pushed them out of your conscious awareness and said, these things are not me. So some people will say the shadow is the me that I don't want you to see. And it's really the me that I don't even want to see, right? So what goes into the shadow? Any feelings or fears that you are not interested in examining or that were too much for you to handle as a child, your needs and your desires, your qualities and your quirks, your interests and your impulses, your talents and your gifts, even your challenges and your differences. All of these things, they have the potential to have been suppressed into the shadow. It could be your anger. It even could be your joy, your neediness or your independence, your softness or your strength, your sexuality, your creativity, your ambition, your playfulness, pretty much anything that you perceived, rightly or wrongly, that wasn't okay with the people that you needed most. And when I tell you that people did not even have to say a word and you learned it, it's really true. You just learned it by being in the home that you were in and watching other people, watching people's expressions, and you didn't even have to think about it. Those things just got suppressed. Debbie Ford wrote a book called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. She has since died, but she wrote the book to really take Carl Jung's work and turn it into something that was for the layperson. And it's an excellent book. So this quote is great. So embracing our shadow is the ultimate act of self-love. There is no greater love than the one that allows us to shine a light on the aspects of ourselves that we have judged and made wrong. Embracing our dark side gives us a newfound freedom to be with the darkness in others. For when I can love all of me, I will love all of you. Holes. My metaphor is that every time that we believe anything about ourselves is unacceptable or we have pain or wounding or anything like that, we take out a part of ourselves and we leave an empty hole and then we put it into a backpack. And these holes are either places we've rejected or pain that we couldn't metabolize. And what happens in those holes is for some of us, they are these raw open holes and they are a source of so much pain. And some of us, we've put a guard over in front of it and it's closed off. And I tended to be the person who almost every one of my holes has a very strong, fierce warrior in front of it. I didn't experience the rawness of my childhood. I experienced the numbness around my childhood. We end up feeling fragmented and empty because we have these holes, but we also feel weighed down and burdened by the fragmented parts that are in our backpacks. I believe it's incredibly burdensome to be pretending we're somebody that we're not, or to be holding like, I don't want to feel this, or I don't want to experience this. I think it's exhausting. Holes are places we don't want anyone to touch or see, and that we don't even want to look at. So today we're going to be focused on what we do to keep people from seeing, touching, or knowing about our holes. In the future, we're going to actually learn more about our holes. And in fact, we're already learning about our holes just by looking at our ego and other things we're doing. Mask. All of us know what masks are. I know we do because everybody knows we put on a mask, but it's a form of an ego defense mechanism. This is the one where we pretend that we're somebody that we're not. We project an idea out into the world of who we are. It's like a facade. It covers this hole, hoping people aren't going to notice what's underneath it. It's like, don't you dare allow anyone to see those parts we've hidden to stay safe. And usually what we do is we put on these masks to stay safe. And it's usually in ways that we are not comfortable being that vulnerable. It feels like it's socially unacceptable. And you might even say, well, some things are socially unacceptable. And that is true, but we don't still have to hide them from ourselves. Like you can choose to still be socially acceptable in certain ways. Like you might go to a PTA meeting and consciously choose to put the PTA meeting mask on, but it's not the problem of the mask. It's the unconscious aspect of it. It's the fact that it pops on without you even knowing it. That's the part I want you to work on. You can choose to wear a mask. It's just what most of us do is we don't even know it. We walk into a setting and whoop, it's there. And so the masks are really the me that we feel safe for you to see. And the you might change and the mask might change. So what happens, and I think what's happened to all of you, is that at some point they feel suffocating. Armor is similar to masks, but it's a little bit different. It's really protecting versus projecting or pretending. And we all have armor as well. And that's usually like a guard who's in front of the hole, who's like, don't you dare get close. And it's very strong protective energy. we use armor when we're children and then now to make us feel stronger when we feel vulnerable. When I felt awkward, I was like, I'm going to put on some confident armor. And you could say that's a mask. Either way, I just became that. And often also can be prickly things we do to keep people away. We might even do things that keep people from getting close to us that we're like, why do we do that thing? And it says at some level, it keeps us safe. And it also helps us to imagine if there's someone there and they're like, don't go in here, all the pain and the feelings that are in that hole, we don't feel it. That's where we get to numbness. One of the things that many people do is we use things like alcohol, food, shopping, or work to numb ourselves. That is a protector of ours. That is an armor, because armor can be very internal or could be actions in the world like coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms. So the problem with armor is that just like when you think about armor on you, it does harden us. It makes us more rigid and it keeps us from fully experiencing life because it actually puts something between us and the reality of life and the reality of our experience of life. So the reality of what's happening out here has like a barrier between it and how we actually feel and what we actually are going through. So ultimately, armor and masks keep us from getting what we deeply desire, which is connection, love, and a sense of feeling seen and known. Hey there, Deb here. Just one quick interruption. If you've been diving into the Whole Soul Way round one, the foundation and core lessons, and you're finding that it's really resonating with you, that is amazing. Now, some of you will get so much out of this free content, and that will be enough. But if you ever feel called to take it deeper, or you think you'd like a little bit more support, just know that there is a whole journey waiting for you inside our full program. Joining the full Whole Soul Way container means that you'll be part of a community. Not just any community, a community of people who are incredibly committed to their journey, who are engaged, empathetic, and so inspiring. And this community and my leadership means that you get more support and contextualization to your own life. Also, you'll have access to rounds 2 and 3 and future rounds that I create, where we take what you've learned in the foundations and then practice applying it to the nuance of our lives. We experience deeper embodiment of the healing, and it really allows us to step more fully into this way of living. This is really where the deeper transformation unfolds, when you have the support you need, community, in a container that's really sacred and safe. So if this is speaking to you, I definitely would say check out the full program and see if and how we could support your growth on an even deeper level. You can check it out at thewholesoulway.com/program. Okay, let's get back to it. The difference between armor and masks. So they are very similar, but I want you to think about the mask as like a hiding, pretending, and projecting an image, and the armor is more protecting us. And both do their own version of protecting. Our own unique ones are things that were highly useful and valued in our own family of origin. And I just want you to know your coping mechanisms, your defense mechanisms, you're not going to just lose all of these things. If you are a very productive person and you value that in yourself, you're probably still going to be that way. It's just you're going to be able to choose to have more space to not always be productive or not be productive because you're trying to prove your worth. So anything that you love about yourself, as we explore these things, even if you determine that they've been useful and they are some form of coping, I'm not suggesting that you have to let everything go in your life and just become a blob. Like, we're still here for a reason, and we need some of the things that we learned. But I do want to say that our armor and our masks are not us. And I have learned over and over again that the things that I thought were just me, as I do my work, I'm like, oh no, that's actually a way I've been coping. And so then I get to see it as a choice. I get to choose. So for me, busyness and productivity has been a way that I've been able to prove my worth in the world. Like, I can get so much done. I'm super efficient. Well, now I still use that, but I channel it when I want to, instead of always, instead of feeling like I have to, instead of feeling like I will only be valuable if I do it. Underneath our masks and our armor is where we find our true selves. Both of these things come from our inner protector's attempt to keep us safe and loved and alive in difficult circumstances when we were little. But the question is, are they still needed? Some of you might be in circumstances where you still need these. And I am not here to overpower your own knowing of that. The problem is that we get these holes in our soul. We get this fragmentation, and our holes in our soul happen just by existing. It's part of being a human being. So everything from being a child and experiencing perhaps trauma like abuse, neglect, but also slow trauma, things that happen just living in a home where parents were fighting all the time, or you didn't have comfort with your siblings, attachment wounding, unmet needs, misattunements, ways that you were overpowered, ways you were shamed, ways that you had potential, but nobody was there to support you, skills that you never got, limiting belief systems, perhaps like maybe the religion you were in had these belief systems that kept you feeling like you had to follow certain rules and no one ever let you question them, societal conditioning. And by the way, this is not meant to criticize parents, because what we know about attachment is you don't even have to get it right all the time. But the problem is sometimes we get it wrong too often, or one particular thing happens for us as children and it can impact us. And the best we can all do as parents now is the best we can. Same with our parents. They did the best they could. And most of them had their own wounding, their own trauma that got passed on generationally. And many of us see ourselves as trying to break the cycles and to interrupt those patterns. So as children, though, the real problem was that we didn't have the skills to process this. And what it forced us to do was separate from ourselves. And that's the core wound. And that's what we're trying to reclaim here, is connection back to ourselves. So separation from self, meaning a combination of we turned away from ourselves looking for external validation, but in addition, we actually cut off from parts of ourselves. We abandoned, disowned, exiled, and reject parts of ourselves. So think about it like this, just to reiterate this: unacceptable and hurt parts, they form a whole. We take the stuff out, those parts, we stick them in a backpack, then we are carrying around the heavy load, and then we put armor masks on to protect those little holes. I like to give a couple visuals. This is like our puzzle meditation, which is this idea that you've got these puzzle pieces of you. And I want you to imagine, like in your heart, all that light that we expanded out and then we brought everyone back into our heart. But soon what you will find is that exercise is great, but you still have a whole bunch of things in your heart that you are like, no, these are not welcome. And so we live in denial of that those parts are there because we've cut off from them, and it's painful. But even the better metaphor, in my opinion, is the colander metaphor. I started noticing with my clients that no matter how much attention and love that they got from their loved ones, they were insatiable. They just needed more. They needed more. They never felt loved. And it came to me that when we have all these holes, that we're like a colander, and that whatever love that we are given, it just goes right through us. Until you have filled in those holes and you feel more and more self-love, it's like there's no match to it. So when the love comes in, it just goes right through you and out. Whereas if you have filled that hole and you feel the sense of love for yourself, you can collect it. So in an ideal world, would we never, ever need external validation? Maybe, but we are still human beings and we still are in relationships, and it feels really good when someone validates us. But won't it feel even better when they validate us? But it's just icing on the cake. We know we love ourselves so much, but when they reflect that for us, it's just like warm and yummy. But for most people, it's, no, I need more. And that's the colander effect of having a lot of holes. And then lastly, if I take a piece of paper and I just pull on it, it's incredibly hard to rip it. But if it has a bunch of holes in it, that thing rips right in place. It's like, that's our fragmentation. We have a weakened inner structure. And as we fill our holes, we will feel that sense of integration, cohesion, completeness, wholeness. That's why I like the whole metaphor, because I feel it really helps to visualize a bunch of different ways to see this. The solution. Again, so Jungian psychology believes that the soul strives for wholeness. So we are reclaiming the shadow parts. This goes back to my idea of being an adventurer, that we go on a search and rescue mission to find all of ourselves. All right. So it's no man left behind. And we go through this process that we are going through now, using inquiry, using worksheets, and questioning. What's coming up is going to be how our ego is our way shower. So shows us to our holes. And then we're going to explore shoulds. And in the future, we're going to explore judgments and triggers. And all of these things are trailheads. They are trailheads that show us to the parts that need to be reclaimed. They show us our holes and our parts. And then what we do is we take them out of our backpack. Everyone we take out when we look at lightens our load. It's like, I don't have to be the one that is trying to make everybody in the world better. I get to just make me whole. I get to come into greater compassion and acceptance of other people. So I'm not carrying the weight of everything on my shoulders. I literally have physical shoulder problems, and I know it's because my backpack was so freaking heavy. And then we integrate that shadow part into ourselves. And I'm not saying that's just some simple thing. We'll learn more about that. But a lot of times it's just shining a light on it. And all of a sudden we're like, whoa, I have such a different relationship with that part. Some are going to be deeper. Some are going to be deep, and they're going to take time, and they might take your entire lifetime to work through. I do recommend that when you do this work, it's okay to go for low-hanging fruit, because everything in your backpack weighs the same. Maybe not your holes. They may not all feel the same, but everything in your backpack weighs the same. The part is a part. So if you take that part out and it was an easy one, you're judgmental of people who don't keep the kitchen clean. You like people who keep clean, but you can work through that one really easily. You'll get the benefit of lightening your load a little bit, and it'll make you feel a little bit more integrated. Some of your holes are deeper. So I'm not going to deny that there's some holes that are going to take a lot more time to fill up, and you might do it in 500 layers. So the other thing we want to do is integrate the polarities in within. And what I mean by that is, you could make an argument that all shadows are polarities, but there are some things that are like energetic polarities, like the feminine, the masculine. And we're going to talk about that later. But it's this way of noticing how much we might be entrenched in any type of belief systems of rights and wrongs, goods and bads, right? And starting to say, can I open up my arms to hold more viewpoints? Can I open up my arms to hold more possibilities? So I remember listening to, I think, Glennon Doyle talk about expanding your circles. Like, you start off your circles, this like little circle that holds you, and you're like, only this is allowed. And then you keep expanding your circle to welcome more people, more you, more everything. And then we take our place as the whole part in the puzzle of the universe, because that's one of the most important pieces we can be doing here is the universe is longing for us and craving for our part. We didn't get put here for no reason. You wouldn't be here. It's actually a really big deal that you became a human incarnated into this life. It's actually rare, and we're really lucky. It's like basically saying that you have cells in your body that aren't valuable. Everything is valuable. You are integral to the fabric of humanity and the fabric of the universe. And we need to start being our whole selves. All right. So this is my very rudimentary visual of the holes in the backpack, which someday maybe I'll do a better job of it. But basically, you're a little baby and you're all whole and smiley. And then you start to lose yourself, lose little parts. And then eventually, as a grown woman, we're like, oh my God, I have so many holes. How much more perfect could we have been designed that other people and circumstances reflect for us every single thing that we have rejected in ourselves that we need to find and integrate? I'm blown away by how amazing whoever our creator is that could have come up with that. We wouldn't be able to see these things because we have an unconscious mind. And so we can only see them by people irritating the crap out of us, triggering the crap out of us, pissing us off, upsetting us. That's the only way we're going to get to see it. And we can either live our lives believing, oh my God, everything's happening to me, or we can say, no, actually, everything is happening for me, exactly because I am now ready to integrate this part. I'm ready to heal. And I believe that we get shown things exactly when we are ready. So you might not get triggered for a long time. Then all of a sudden you're triggered by something. I'm ready. I'm ready to deal with this. And whenever you're ready, then we go through the journey to look at that part and integrate it. And we do this largely by loving and parenting our inner child the way we wished and needed it as a child. So when we find a part that we rejected, we have to go back to her and be like, why? What happened? How can I show you that I love you in your wholeness? How can I accept you unconditionally? We'd like someone else to do that for us. We'd like our partners to do that for us often. We'd like everyone in our life to fill our holes for us and to fulfill all those needs. I'm sure some people would disagree with me, but I'm of the mind that your parents could have done that for you, But once you are an adult, only you can do it for you. It doesn't mean that you won't get some benefits from other people and that some people can love you up and give you all kinds of safety and security. But at the end of the day, we have to do it for ourselves. And then just like they reflect our holes, they will then reflect our wholeness. Just like they reflect for us the parts that we dislike the most in ourselves, they will then begin to reflect how much we love ourselves. I'm telling you across the board, I can tell you it happens to me all the time. I can't even believe it with my husband. I literally am so blown away by how now obvious my projections are. I'm almost like nauseating myself because I project stuff onto him and then I'm like, oh my God, it's like in Technicolor for me. But then as soon as I love that in me, all of a sudden it's just not there anymore. I know it's crazy, but trust me. And when it happens to you, you're going to be like, what? What? How is that possible? In this process of the solution, as I said, the obstacle is the way. Life is happening for us, not to us. So everything that is a trigger of frustration, discomfort, challenges, even physical pain can be used as a pointer or a trailhead to show us a whole. And the most suffering we experience is that we are turning away from ourselves. We avoid ourselves. We reject ourselves. We resist our pain. We resist our feelings. We reject parts of ourselves. That's the biggest source of pain we have. So the more we turn toward ourselves, just the act of turning toward yourself is healing. The stuff we've already done, the reason why some of you are already experiencing some sense of relief and calm, and I'm not saying all the time, but it's because you are already beginning to relate to yourself with a more loving, caring energy. So we shift our orientation. So instead of us orienting to our validation, approval, okayness is getting from the outside world, which is basically a crapshoot of whether you're going to ever get what you need. We come to orienting to our inner compass, which I call the soul way GPS. And it's the way we can anchor to ourselves. And then we reclaim these parts. We reclaim parts of ourselves so we can remember who we are. And we heal and transform ourselves through self-parenting so we can feel the sense of love that we needed when we were little, but we feel it from the inside out. And we fill our holes, and that provides us with that sense of inner strength, safety, and wholeness. We are no longer fragmented. And then when we do that, we are able to bravely step more fully into our true and whole selves in the world. I notice a lot of people are really good at doing the steps up until stepping into the world. So they do a lot of this work, and internally they are like, oh, no, when I'm alone or when I'm with people that I'm really safe with, I'm totally myself. And I'm like, I know, but like true liberation is when you feel so internally whole and safe that no matter who you're with, you can be at home in yourself. And that is a journey. And I don't want to give you the impression that's like, oh yeah, in 15 weeks, you're going to be there. With some things you might be. But, and I believe the older we are, the more easy it is because we do get a little bit of I don't really care as much about what you think of me anymore. It's the beauty of getting older. So up until now, you've done everything that you can. You did all the right things. You had these inner tools and resources to keep you safe, and it's been wise and smart. And I make no judgments of anybody for keeping ourselves safe. But once we have some level of safety and we've gone up Maslow's hierarchy of needs enough, we then have the opportunity to self-actualize. And so everything you have done has been wise to protect yourself. And listen, every one of us can relate to being hurt, dismissed, humiliated, abandoned, rejected. It was smart. But now, can I get to the place where even if somebody does do something, says something mean, even if they reject me, that I can still feel like I am okay inside? Maybe it's a pang of, oh, I want their approval, but it's like you come back to, but I know that I'm good. I know that I'm loved. I know that I'm worthy. I know that I'm okay. That's where we really want to be. So that's the work here, is cultivating that level of inner safety so that we can take off our masks and armor and be seen. I like to connect this to evolving our brains. What we're doing here really is still coming into taming our amygdala, loving the ego part that jumps up and is ready to take care of us and protect ourselves, and training the prefrontal cortex. And when we were young, often our parents didn't have regulated nervous systems, so we didn't have anyone to co-regulate to. So we have to learn how to regulate our nervous system. I love this with Brene Brown, that the irony is that when we're standing across from someone who's hidden or shielded by masks and armor, we feel frustrated and disconnected. That is the paradox here. Vulnerability is the last thing that I want you to see in me, but the first thing I look for in you. I don't know if you've read the book by Bronnie Ware, but it's The 5 regrets of the dying. I adapted these. The part in blue are my adaptations, but I just want to read them to you. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I wish I hadn't hustled to prove my worth, given until I was depleted and worked so hard. I wish I had the inner safety and courage to feel and express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends and developed close, intimate, mutually fulfilling relationships. And I wish that I had done the inner work so I could let myself be happier. And that's what we are all doing here today. Our reason is not just so we don't have regrets, it's so that we live fully. I remember also reading a recent survey that was done by a young person who went to 90-year-olds and had the hypothesis that if he asked the question, what was most important? What do you most regret? He was 100% sure they were all going to say that they wished they had done more, right? I wished I had built a business or I had been more famous or something. And every one of them said they wished that they had connected more, that they had fostered their relationships more. I look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on this. Please make sure that you share in the comments. Okay, well, that's a wrap on that steps foundational lesson. Let's just pause for a moment though, because this next part matters more than you might realize. You've just absorbed some powerful lessons, and I know how tempting it is to just hit next and keep learning, to gather more knowledge and more insights and more understanding. I know that feeling, but here's the truth. I've learned in my own experience and after years walking alongside many people on this journey, wisdom without action is just information. And information alone doesn't change our lives. Think of it like this. You wouldn't go to the gym, watch someone else lift weights and expect to get stronger. The transformation happens when you pick up the weight. These exercises, well, they're your weights. They're where the real work and the real magic happens. So here's what I'm inviting you to do next. If you haven't already, go download the exercises workbook at thewholesoulway.com/workbooks. You'll notice that there are 2 workbooks available for each step, one with the lesson content and one specifically for exercises. Make sure you grab the exercises workbook because that's where the inner work part of this lives. And here's something else important for you to know. Some of the exercises, they only appear in the workbook and some of them only appear on audio or video, and that's why you need both. And for those of you who like guided experiences, I've also created some supporting meditations on Insight Timer. You can go to insighttimer.com/Deb Blum. Sometimes we need that gentle voice guiding us deeper, and I'm really excited that these meditations are now on Insight Timer for you as well. Now, I want to remind you of something I shared in the Why the Whole Soul Way episode, and that is about the universal law of fair exchange. This program is free, and I've made it that way intentionally because I believe everyone should have access to what I'm teaching. But energy still needs to be balanced so we don't sabotage our own potential for transformation. One of the most powerful ways that you can honor this exchange is by actually doing the exercises, by truly showing up for yourself, and by doing the inner work. That's the exchange. I give you the lessons, the tools, and the exercises, and you do the work. And that's how we keep this energy flowing. That's how we honor what we're creating together. And if you feel called, another beautiful way that you can balance this energy is to share it with somebody else that you feel could benefit from it. And I would love it if you would rate and review the podcast or like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. This is the way that we can create ripples of transformation together. One awakened soul inspiring another. So before you go, remember that the next section includes both additional lessons that will help round out the foundational lesson and those transformational exercises. So go do them now while your heart is open and your commitment is fresh. Your transformation is waiting for you, not only in the next lesson, but in the work that you're about to do. So as you do the exercises, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to leave a comment on what you've learned or what your experience is like. Okay, I'll see you in the exercises.